horse capital of the world, Lexington, Kentucky, home to the 2015 Breeders' Cup, Keeneland, Red Mile, Jockey Club, and recent Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. Lexington is the epicenter of the horse racing industry.
This is where they raise the best racehorses in the world. They have for years and years, and the history here is ongoing. And I think that the quality that we've produced and the world-class horses that have come from Kentucky, whether it's the mares or the stallions or the land, whatever it is, there's a certain something very special here.
In 2014 alone, Keeneland contributed to over $590 million to Lexington and Fayette County. Lexington's economy is dependent upon the large revenue received from racing of horses. The city of Lexington draws hundreds of thousands of people a year based on its long-standing horse traditions. But with more people comes the altering and changing of the standard ways. These advances in technology have led to the debate within the horse industry, specifically related to horse cloning. Tissue samples are collected from the animal desired to be cloned. The DNA from this cell is placed into a denucleized cell, which is then placed into a surrogate to develop until birth. This process is called somatic cell transfer.
Headline on the other major news story today, to which we intend to devote some time, is very simple. Hello, Dolly.
In February of 1997, a Finn Dorset sheep named Dolly sent waves of future shock around the world.
The first living, breathing clone of an adult mammal.
In 2003, the first cloned mule, Idaho Gem, was born. Later in the year, a surrogate gave birth to the first cloned horse, Promethea.
The original part of the project was to look at some things related to reproductive health in humans. And they felt by having a cloned embryo that would maybe give them some opportunity to study something.
Many organizations in the horse racing industry, such as American Quarter Horse Association, Jockey Club, and the United States Trotting Association, have outwardly banned cloned horses from competition. They hold this belief due to the fact that they want to continuously improve the genetics of horses, not just make copies of them.
Since then, a number of activities have decided that having cloned animals is okay. And those typically are activities that a registered horse isn't required. So things like show jumping, where it really doesn't matter the pedigree of the horse per se as much as how high they can jump. The other thing that's happened in some of those activity groups is it was a way to essentially bring geldings back and to acquire the genetics of geldings that people felt were lost to the industry, and so they wanted to do that. Whether that's absolutely the case or not, there's lots of debate about it.
On the other hand, some groups of people, such as owners of cloned horses, believe that it should be allowed in order to increase profits on such horse.
Why would some horse owners like to see cloned horses raced?
I think there's a couple reasons that go with that. One of the main reasons being from a personal standpoint where they want to make more money. They have a horse that did well, maybe it's time for it to retire. They want to clone it and do it all over again. Also, I think it comes around when you have a horse that was gelded at a young age, all of a sudden it's a millionaire, and they want to breed it. So they clone it, now they have a stallion, and they can do their breeding.
As those who live in Lexington, it is imperative that we prevent cloned horses from racing. It will damage both Lexington, University of Kentucky, and tarnish the horse racing industry loved by all.
I think in a lot of cases, some of their rationalization, I'm not sure is 100% true. I think that in a lot of cases, they just don't see the need for it. They don't see how it's going to help doing what they want to do. And maybe some of them have really thought and said, if we clone some of those great horses and we just keep that genetic base in the population, we'll narrow our gene pool. And in a lot of the breeds, our gene pool is already very small. I don't know that we want to do things that might make it smaller. So with that, and I think in the thoroughbred industry, they have held on to tradition. They use some parts of the technology from a reproductive standpoint, but they have certainly decided that some of the technology that we know and are used in other breeds is not for them. And that's their decision. I don't think I guess it's their opinion that that's what they want to do, and they've made it based on what they believe to be good information, and I don't think we can argue with them. It's their opinion.
When it comes to horse racing and the horse racing industry, I do not think that horse cloning has a proper place, especially at this time. We thrive on the genetic diversity that we have, and actually in recent times, especially in harness racing, some of that genetic diversity has been cut down just due to artificial insemination. For the better, I think, but we certainly don't need to cut it down anymore with the addition of cloning. I think we need the genetic diversity because we are constantly trying to improve, make a better horse. If we lack that diversity, you have nothing to breed to, nothing to change, everything's the same. So you really need the diversity to develop the next generation of racehorses.
If cloned horses were allowed to race, less people would be interested in it because the same horses would always win. As a result, the million-dollar racing industry would lose its value.
I think it has the potential to make some changes that people, you always have to worry about unintended consequences. In the standardbred industry, when they first started allowing the use of artificial insemination, you could go to a racetrack in a particular race, and there might be, out of 10 horses in the race, 8 of them could be from the same sire. And I think people started to question, so what are the differences? Probably doesn't do our fan base that much good when there isn't some diversity, there isn't an opportunity to try to figure out who's going to be the best. And if we're dealing with an industry that is fueled by betting, you probably don't want to do something that may turn the bettors off, whether it be the $2 ticket or the professional handicapper. And I think that would worry me a little bit, and I think we see some of that. Not a whole lot with AI, but there's a little bit of that, and we already see it to a certain degree in the thoroughbred industry. I mean, there's some of those really popular stallions have extremely large books. They're breeding 200 mares a year, which is a lot of mares. There's a lot of babies that have the same sire. I'm not convinced that that's always the best.
I think one of the main reasons that horse racing is against cloning is because of the genetic diversity that we have to maintain in the business, and then also obviously gambling is a big part of horse racing, and I think that if all these horses are clones of each other or the same horse, I think it hurt the betting as well.
Many students are drawn to the University of Kentucky due to it being located in the horse capital of the world. The city of Lexington and the University of Kentucky would suffer greatly by the economic effects of allowing cloned racehorses.
I think there'd be a huge, and that's the thing that we would have to worry about. What would the impact be to our horse industry if all of a sudden we only needed to have 5 farms, and those 5 farms had 5 horses instead of having 100 of the top thoroughbred stallions in the country, actually probably to a degree in the world standing here. We only had to have 5. That's a pretty huge impact on a lot of other things. Now it's going to mean the mares will still probably be here, but there would be a change. And technology is good, but I'm not sure all technology is. I don't know how to really compartmentalize that. So a lot of the cases, I think the science of cloning is absolutely fascinating. Do we need it? I have not been convinced that it's something that we need.
Allowing cloned racehorses would have detrimental effects on not only those involved in the horse industry, but all those associated with Lexington.
So at first I think it could draw some people's attention, especially those not from the horse world that want to see a clone. I think industry-wide it would hurt horse racing in Lexington. Maybe not as much for standardbreds just because they're not as prevalent in the area, but I think gambling at places like Keeneland, gamblers wouldn't want to be betting on horses that are all the same, and I also would imagine it would hurt thoroughbred breeding in general. It's a mecca here, and they strive to have all these great top horses, but if you have cloning, who wants, you can't compete if you have so many of the exact same horse.
I always find it interesting when they say if we had 10 Secretariat clones, and they were in a race where they all finished first at the same time.
Now, how boring would that be?